Thanks so much. That's Chris. No, that's not Chris. There's Chris. I want to just say thanks to Chris Lessard and the whole production team for this awesome opportunity. I'm thrilled to be here. I want to thank you, Ms. Johnson. Yes. Thank you so much for hosting me. Joma Watson, thank you so much. You guys, I think, have two of the coolest jobs I'm aware of. So thank you very much. And Josh, awesome what you've done.
Thank you.
And I'm one of our vets, as I was walking in, said, it's a blessing to have me here. I got to tell you, I feel blessed to be in this job, to get to work with our vets, with all of you all. And I feel surely blessed to be here this afternoon. So thank you so much. Now, I want to just take a point of privilege here and shout out Jay Zimmerman, who I think is on, there he is. So I just want to say thanks for the great help that you've given me as I've wrestled through how I talk about our number one clinical priority, which is preventing veteran suicide, and sharing your story with me. Very profound and very powerful, so I thank you for that. All this, Josh, made possible by your idea, so more power to you. Now, behind me on the screen is our mission statement as a department. The president, the current president, not the president who founded VA, President Lincoln, but the current president, President Biden, calls us our job the country's one sacred obligation. He says we got a lot of obligations, but we only got one sacred obligation. That's to train and equip the troopers we send into harm's way, and then to care for them and their families when they come home. So the second, that's a promise the country makes, but the second half of that promise is VA's to keep. So let's go to the next slide. The fact is, I wanted to come here to you because I was invited, but I wanted you to see VA from your POV. I wanted to make sure that you understand that where you are finding community is where we want to be, because we want a relationship with you so we can carry out that sacred obligation. You already heard about VA Donnie, but I'll come back to him at the end. But just consider for a sec vets and service members. 75% of American households, mine is one of those. Okay, I can do it myself then. Awesome. Have at least one gamer. Okay, mine has 3. 43% of service members identify as gamers. We're working with gamers to learn the best ways to reach our vets who are gamers. You see some of it on the screen. We're trying to find you on Discord. We're trying to find you where you are. And I just want you to know our next gaming tournament's coming up, so if you want in, we want you in, okay? Now, the question is, what is VA? It's so many things. Most importantly, it's what you have earned. It's what you so richly deserve. And when you come to VA, you're not taking anything from anybody else. Every time I talk to a vet, I hear them say, look, somebody else needs this more than I do. Or I don't want it, I don't need it, but I know my battle buddy who needs it. Okay? This is a commitment and obligation the country makes to you. And when we have a relationship with you, it's actually enriching our relationship with other veterans. You uniquely understand this, the way we use data today. The data that you share with us about your experience, what you experienced in active duty, provides us information about you. And I'll get back to that in a minute about why that's important and how you do that. But it also provides us information about your unit. The unit that relieved you. The unit that you relieved. So when you file a claim with VA, we learn a lot about you. But you might just be giving us the piece of information that we need about your battle buddy. That guy, that man, that woman that you're worried about. And that will then unlock our ability to have a relationship with him or with her too. Okay? So when we're saying that we're available to you, we want to be available to you where you are. And then you see what we offer when you're with us. 170 hospitals. Great one right here. Right? More than 1,100, almost 1,200 clinics in your communities. Telehealth, telemental health across the country. More than 300 vet centers. These are just straightforward, retail setting counseling outposts in every community in the country, not every community, in 300 communities in the country. When you come see us at a vet center, you can sit down with a counselor who is, in all likelihood, a combat veteran, him or herself. You don't need any special enrollment or anything to come see us. It could be bereaving the loss of a buddy. You could be a survivor of military sexual trauma. You come see us at one of those settings, and we'll get you into care today. Okay? The list goes on and on of the services that are yours, that you have earned. Okay? And whether it's, you may not want a mortgage now, but when you do, come see us. You may not need hearing aids now, but when you do, we got the best ones, the most affordable ones on the market. You may not know of the clothing allowance, but let's say you've got a prosthetic and it really wears down your clothes. Well, you have earned investment in that as well. What we know this all adds up to is study after study tells us that veterans who get their health care with VA have better health outcomes. I'm not telling you that everything at VA isn't perfect, because it's not. But I am telling you that when we are in our care, the health outcomes are better. Now, SecDef has a saying that I think I got a lot of respect for our SecDef. Right? Never been a more combat deployed, battle hardened Secretary of Defense. And he has a very simple saying. He says, mental health is health. Okay? So let's just talk about that for a second, because that's the whole purpose of today's panel. I said I hear from a lot of vets saying, look, somebody else needs it more than me. Okay? I want you to take a spin through some of these stories. Okay? My sense is some of these stories are going to resonate with you. Right? These stories are your stories. Right? Take a look at the other link and see, I just did it there. I was like, I'm not going to embarrass myself in front of a bunch of gamers and use things like links and URLs. I've been studying all week and I blew it. This thing, the QR code, you know what I mean? It's not a link. My son right now would be like, Unc, what are you doing? And I said, I'm not your uncle, I'm your dad. He says, the point is that you're acting like an unk. So, take a look at what's available, okay? The thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to wait. Okay, I want you to reach out. Because when you reach out, we have, yes, mental health support, mental health care, but we have help with career challenges, education challenges, money challenges, relationship challenges, grief, loss, life transitions, substance use. I'm one of 11 kids. My dad's a McDonough, my mom's an O'Mani. You know what that means? I know a shitload about chemical dependence and substance abuse. There's no weakness in getting support for that. That's strength, right? So check out what's available. Now, we're also here in crisis. You may never need it. But maybe a buddy of yours will. Or maybe you will. Let me just give you a couple of examples. Veterans Crisis Line. Just dial 988 and press 1. We'll get you in touch today with mental health professionals. Fully staffed crisis lines. Now, I mentioned my conversation with Jay. I recently had a conversation with the parents of a staff sergeant, Army staff sergeant. His dad said, he's a victim of suicide. His dad said, sometimes the happiest person in the room is the one who needs the help the most. Their son, Staff Sergeant Gordon Fox, was the happiest guy in the room. They said everybody in their unit went to him. Right? So you may not need it, but your buddy may. Veterans Crisis Line. If you want to see a doctor today, you go to any hospital in the country, any hospital, regardless of your status with VA, whether you're enrolled with VA or not. If you serve this country, you go into any hospital in the world, in the country today, in mental health crisis, we pay, you get the care. It's called the Compact Act. Okay? Veteran Crisis Line, 988. Press 1. 1,500 staffers on duty, working with you, getting you connected to the right care. We also have text and chat options on both. And those people, those 1,500 who are sitting there working, are vets themselves. Okay? So please, if in crisis, know we're here. Now, the other thing that I learned from Staff Sergeant Fox's mom and dad is that his last words were this: tell people to get help. That it's okay to get help. It's not only okay, it's strength to get help. Now, here's some of the ways you can get help at VA. But I want you to know a couple of different things. You know, those vet centers are in your communities, okay? For your first 3 mental health care visits or your first 3 visits to work through substance use disorder, there's no copays, okay? So the cost is 0, not even a copay, okay? And just make sure that you know that in crisis we're there for you. But I want you to know something else about mental health care, which is mental health care in America would not have happened absent VA. Because you know what we did in 1945 and 1946 when 13.5 million troopers came home? We built modern psychology. Built it. And we are researching every day about the best way to get you care. Right now we're arguing to increase access to enhance clinical trials for cannabis. Right now we're in the field requesting proposals to study the use of psilocybin for depression, MDMA for PTSD. That's VA. Looking for ways to get cutting-edge care for you. Aligning our support for you with your lifestyle. Making sure that we're there for you. Now, those are some of the access points for care. Oftentimes, the first way we establish a relationship with you is when you file a claim. What does a claim do? Well, a claim allows us to establish any conditions that you have, whether those are connected to your time and service. And when they are, then we can get you benefits to make up for any lost quality of life. Now, I guarantee you, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because it makes me so bummed out, because when I ask this question, every hand goes up. But if I were to ask you a question, who has a horror story or has heard a horror story about a VA claim? It's like, well, don't even start. I don't even want to see it. The answer is everybody. But you know what? We're getting better. We're not perfect, but we're getting better. 2.4 million claims filed last year. 1.9 million decisions made last year. Right? The average number of days, it used to be about a year. Average number of days to get all those claims completed, 150 days. Now, that probably sounds to you like a bad number. And you're like, this clown thinks that's good. Right? I'm not telling you that it's good. I'm telling you what it is. And I'm telling you that the number's coming down. Now, here's how you can find out more about filing a claim. Okay? The last 5 months we've produced decisions, we've finalized claims at a record pace each month faster than the month prior. Okay? And that's important because it's our first opportunity in many cases to develop a relationship with you. And then when you have that connection, you start a relationship with us. You open into those boxes on that third slide, right, of what's available to you. Most importantly, maybe, you get access to care. So I just want to say something about care at VA. Who gets care at VA? 9.1 million vets are enrolled at VA. It's about 6.5 rely on VA for the overwhelming majority of their care. Now, I think some of us have in our minds that the average vet at VA is Korea vet, Vietnam vet. And it's true. I'm psyched that we got a lot of Vietnam vets in our care. But we're getting more every day. And I'll tell you what, you see the biggest component of our care are those Gulf War and post 9/11 vets, right? And the fastest growing cohort of veterans in our care are women. Each of the last 10 years, the fastest growing number of veterans in our care are women vets. My point is, I want you to see yourself in VA. I don't want you to see yourself in VA because it's not helpful. I told you a minute ago that your health outcomes are better when you're in VA. I want you to see yourself in VA because you trust us. After every engagement at VA, you get a survey trying to measure 3 things. Was it easy and timely to get your access to care? Was the care effective? Did it work? And third, did you feel treated with respect when you're at VA? We use that survey. We get about 14% response rate on those surveys. Statistically meaningful. the envy of every other healthcare system in the country. We use those to determine, are we doing right by our vet? Last month, we put out that trust score ratings. Those 3 questions are at the highest level they've ever been at VA for every component. For access to care, for outpatient care, they're 91.9% across the country. Now, you guys are all a lot smarter than me. I didn't see a lot of 91.9% on my report card. Okay? But, awesome. But that tells me that we're doing something right. Not because 91.8, not 9, 91.8 is that what we're comfortable with, but because 91.8 is up substantially from the 80% that we had when we first started keeping score on this 10 years ago. All right, I don't have to tell a bunch of e-gamers that keeping score actually matters. I'm kind of a winning and losing guy. Okay? Not like a ribbon for everybody. I keep score. Right? And this trust moniker is how we keep score at VA. Lastly, I'm here to see you today, and then I'll have just a couple things to say after this. I'm here to see you today because you invited me, but also because I have 100% confidence that almost to a person you qualify today for VA care. We have this new law the President signed called the PACT Act. It's to learn the lesson from Vietnam, where it took us 30 years to really come to terms with the fact that exposure to Agent Orange led to health complications. The PACT Act says we're not going to wait 30 years. We're going to start now making sure that our veterans, our troopers who are exposed to toxins out of burn pits throughout Central Command get access to our care now. So the PACT Act is not yet, but it can be the biggest expansion of VA benefits and VA care in the history of VA. Why is that? Well, we have millions and millions of veterans who serve throughout Central Command, right? Including many of you in this room. So that law says you served in Vietnam, you served in the Gulf War, you served in Iraq or Afghanistan. You deployed to any combat zone after 9/11. Philippines, Niger, Somalia, Uzbekistan, Jordan, Syria, Yemen, and of course, Iraq and Afghanistan. You're eligible for care. You deployed in support of the GWAP. Many of those same garden spots. You're eligible for care. Or you didn't deploy overseas, but in training you were exposed to radioactive material, to lead, paint, to asbestos. You too qualify for VA care today. So I really, really, really want you to enroll. And here's how you do that. Okay? You can do that through filling out the claim we just talked about a minute ago. Under the PACT Act, 75% grant rate. Okay, for eligibility. But if you already have one of these indicators, you qualify. So, visit us at that, or come see us, or reach out to Donnie. Plug into us any way you feel works. Here's some of those ways that happens. Every Wednesday at 5, you said, Josh?
Yes.
That's VA Donnie. Okay? 6. 5 o'clock in Minnesota, that's where I'm from. But if you're in Washington, it's 6. And if you're not in Minnesota, you should be. At least I think so. Every one of these are places where you can find us. But I'm here today because we want to find you. We want a relationship with you. Okay? And the president called me to tell me to take this job. I wasn't looking for a job. But what an honor. He said, but it's a pretty straightforward job. He says, your job is to fight like hell for vets. He didn't say fight like hell for the Vietnam vets. He didn't say fight like hell for the World War II vets. He didn't say fight like hell for the women vets or the man vets, straight vets or the gay vets, the black vets or the white vets. He said fight like hell for vets. Okay? I'm here because we work for you. We want you in our care. We want you getting the benefits that you earned. Okay? I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Should we stand or sit? Sit.
Whatever you want.
I'll follow your lead. I'm not much of a sitter, so if I start walking around, don't get alarmed.
We wanted to make this a unique experience for the Secretary. That's why we got gaming chairs, just to kind of have that look and feel. So what we're going to do
We have one gaming chair, by the way, at my house. It's on the floor and it rocks back and forth. We found it on the street. My kids are like, pull over, get that thing.
Awesome.
And I was like, I'm in the president's cabinet. We can't be like picking up people's stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah. They said, whatever, Dad, just pull over.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to host a short town hall session. And we're going to do that by 2 ways. We're going to do that live in the audience. We've got a couple people with some questions for Mr. Secretary. And then we also have questions in Discord. We're actually hosting live currently a town hall session on our Discord. And VA Donnie is manning this session. So he's got questions teed up. But I wanted to make a quick announcement about the mental health, too. One of the things that we've done is we built a program called the Recon Care. And it's a 24/7 Discord bot, lives in our Discord. So if you're a part of our Discord and you're a veteran and needs assistance, it's a peer-to-peer. There's 19 people that we have staffing. And anybody, any time of the day, if you're in crisis, please reach out to 988 or to us. Ours is a peer-to-peer, and it's totally free. And you just go into our Discord, and you'll see it says mental health support. And there's somebody 24/7 available. And I'm very proud that we were able to put that together with the VA's support. So one thing I'd like to give recognition to the Secretary is I've been working with the VA for a few years. Typically, in working with different organizations, you say something, they don't act on it. One of the things that I've seen is we ask, they deliver. Every single time. And so they've delivered, they've really wanted to attract and talk to the younger generation, the generation that games. And so this is why we're here. So I'd like to start by asking the audience questions. I know we have Brendan Quisenberry that has a question. Brendan, you want to ask the Secretary your question?
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a super good question, and I wanna back up and say maybe 3 things. The first is, remember that there's many services we offer at VA. The 2 biggest are compensation and pension benefits, or you have a condition that's connected to your service. We want to make sure that we understand that condition and that we can compensate you for any loss of quality of life. When you're going to QTC, a lot of times what they're doing is they're helping us make those determinations, and we unfortunately have to rely on contractors to help us in that process, because we just don't have enough people on the VHA side, the health provision side. So one of the things that we're going through and that we're working really hard on is, what are the quality metrics for those contractors who we hire? Are they hitting those quality metrics? If they aren't, are we holding them accountable? And do those quality metrics include things like consistency of screening? Right? Now, so that's point 1, which is the claims process. It took you 4 years to get to 100% service connected, is maddening, frustrating. We're getting better at it. By no means are we where we need to be yet, but we're getting better. And the work with the contractors and increasing our demands of them is part of that, including making sure that there's some regular screening. Is everything okay?
If you have a question, we take another audience question. You just run up here, because the people online can't hear you. So we'll have you use the mic right here for those who want to
Good.
ask a question.
All right. Point 1. Point 2. There's a major issue with continuity of care when you're going in on the health care side of the house. Now, not getting your condition service connected, but just getting your care. Too often, our vets come in and each time they come in, they see a different provider. So they're retelling their story. Right? You knowingly nod. It must just really chap your ass. It would really chap my ass, I gotta say. Right? But I'm not a vet. Okay? So that is an HR issue, and making sure that we have enough people. I'll say this not as a means to rationalize it, and this is the last thing I'll say, but as a way for you to understand it. The country as a whole is short on mental health professionals. VA, actually, we're in a pretty good spot right now. Had a good 2 years of hiring on psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, social workers. But there's places where we're very soft. Secondly, not only is there a shortage generally, but at VA, we have this issue where crisis care and long-term preventative care too often are at variance, meaning we have to have a psychologist do his shift, her shift on the Veterans Crisis Line, which means they're not seeing their panel of patients that day. So we have to get to a point where we're staffed sufficiently that when you do your shift on the crisis line, the emergency care that's so badly needed, it doesn't come at the expense of you seeing your panel of patients every day. Which brings me to my last point, which is this is why we are aggressively hiring as much as we can on mental health professionals. And at the end of the day, that's the answer to this question, right? So Congress has given us hiring authorities. Congress has given us authorities to pay psychologists, psychiatrists better. For too long, we've been just trading back and forth between DOD and the private sector. DOD runs short. They bump everybody for 20%. Our guys go to DOD. Then It's just, the market is just too taut. We need more supply in there. But I say all that not as rationalization. We got to do a better job of it. But that's the problem we're trying to confront. So thanks for the question.
And I know we had another question over here. I can't see.
There's one right here.
Oh, Daniel. I was looking for you, Daniel.
Wanna come over here? Thanks. Doesn't go too far.
I think the boots do it, dude.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary.
Good
My
afternoon.
name is Daniel Sharp, formerly the United States Marine Corps. In the last few years, we've seen examples of how when veterans in the community come together, we can accomplish great things. Examples of this would be the PACT Act, which myself and other veterans were asked to consult on, advancements in the use of psychedelics as treatments for those in distress, and the success of events like this. My question is, are there any other initiatives you feel the VA has focused on more as a result of the veteran community elevating their voice to highlight a need?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do. I think as a general matter, this question of continuity of care that just came up, that saying, urging vets to come get care, but then having to retell your story every time, we've understood that to be the problem it is through two things. One, through our surveys that I talked about before, our trust surveys, but also through veterans just coming together, saying, getting together and coming forward together to say, this doesn't work for us, right? Second, there is a remarkable outpouring over the course of the last 10 years about dissatisfaction with the over-reliance and or quick reliance on pharmaceutical interventions rather than some of the other harder work alternatives. And so we now, so veterans organized and demanded access to not only psychedelic, but the other whole health modalities, battlefield acupuncture, yoga, mindfulness. We're in the field now with a massive clinical trial on transcendental meditation. Chiropractors, massage therapy, music therapy. Our whole health practice is a direct response to veteran demand that there be alternatives other than pharmaceutical. Third, just mental health at all, right? Meaning talking about it, reducing the stigma about it. And this is, I think, the most profound thing. I talk about my own mental health now. I talk about anxiety because I've seen veterans talking about it.
I'd rather be in a gunfight than do public speaking,
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the point is, like, veterans, we don't just say that we work for you. We actually believe it. I'm not saying everybody at VA acts as if we believe that we work for you, because sometimes we don't, and sometimes I'm like a jackass and I do dumb things too. But for the most part, we believe we work for you. And when that's the case, when we hear signal from you, we want to attack it, you know? And so continuing that, and as you say, this is a good example of it, right? VA listen. Not always fast, but we listen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then our last question from the audience, and then we'll get to some online. Ken Crigliano.
Okay, come over here so we can hear you online.
Okay, sir, again, appreciate you coming
Yeah,
here.
thank
It,
you.
it really does mean a lot to us.
Yeah.
So, see the numbers, great slides, very hopeful. I've noticed it myself. I'm transitioning right now, and I
Awesome.
appreciate all the hard work you've done.
Awesome.
What are some of the innovations that you've rolled out that have resulted in these great numbers, and some innovations that you're rolling out soon, particularly in the realm of AI, if you're able to
Yeah.
speak to any of those?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing we've done in the last 3 years is we're trying to more aggressively reach out to veterans. There's a Marine that Jose works with. His name is John Bursler. And he says, he said this very early when I started at VA. He said, our goal has got to be that we build VA to fit into veterans' lives rather than expect veterans to change their lives to come to VA. For the longest time, we've thought that was the case. You know, you need health care, just come to the hospital. You know, but we've been really trying to innovate out that vector. So that means, you know, we're opening now about a dozen new clinics every year, and the clinics are meant to be closer to where veterans are. Our hospitals are overwhelmingly in cities because they're built in the 1940s, and that's where a big amount of the veterans were living when they came home, in cities. The veterans are more likely to be in rural and suburban settings now. So we're building our infrastructure closer to veterans. But that's not an innovation we've done. But that is out the same vector of let's get the care where the veterans are. We've developed a VA communications tool. I think we call it VA Comms. Very interesting title. Innovative. And, you know, until last August, we hadn't communicated with veterans on text. Believe that? I mean, talk about unk, right? I mean, holy mackerel. So we're communicating with veterans who are, we find them, we know where you are, we know whether you're enrolled with us or not, and if you aren't, we're trying to market to you the way USAA does, and you know, we want you in our care. That's the thing I'm most excited about, and the numbers bear that out, right? 30% more claims filed last year than the year before, and that was the highest ever. Okay, 20% enrollments this year than last year, and last year was 30% enrollments higher than the year before, and that year was a record year, right? So, you know, that the outreach is working. On AI, we're exploring two things expressly. We've gone out for a competition for bidders. One is for scheduling, AI for scheduling. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands on this either because it'll give me heart palpitations, but my hunch is some of you might have had some scheduling issues at VA, right? AI has many proven manifestations on scheduling across health systems, not just across VA, but through VA into the private sector. So that's one thing we're testing. The second thing we're testing is AI for ambient note taking. My sense is maybe some of you meet with your doc or your provider, and they're sitting there typing into the screen rather than talking to you and having a clinical visit. Well, we're testing AI tools that allow her to have that clinical visit with you, and then have the AI capture the notes, which she then later after the visit, and then files away. So she's not doctoring a file, she's not doctoring a keyboard, she's doctoring vets. Those are the two AI things we're testing. I'll tell you one other, it's not AI, but it is a data maximization effort we have, which is, it's called, and the name now escapes me, Reach Vet. Okay? We're able to look at data across multiple indicators in your file, right? And we may determine that you're at risk based on those inputs. The use of this program then allows us to be in touch with you on a regular basis. And the cool thing is, you know, I've seen our medical center directors or our network, our regional directors compete with one another saying, hey, last month I reached 100% of my Reach vets, you know, in the first week of the month. So I went back and I did it 2 more times, right? When you have data accessible in that way, it allows us to be on the forward lean on providing care rather than waiting for problems to come, going out and being proactive. Those are a couple examples.
And then we have time for one short question from Donnie from Discord.
Yes, sir. I got a question here. How is VA going to continue providing support to veterans through the game?
Well, I'd say a couple different things. One, we're relying on the same technologies that you're using to deliver care in a lot of our settings. So that's one thing that we are doing and we will continue to do.
Cheese. One more.
I can't say cheese, I'm from Minnesota. I'm not a Packers fan, man. I'm a Vikes fan. I don't say cheese. Skull, that's what I'm talking about. So one, we're going to use this technology in the modality. So VR, right? And VR and whole health, VR and mental health. Okay, so that's one. Two is, you know, I mean, as I mentioned before, I've been talking to a lot of people like Jay and others about suicide because I'm in the middle of these 2 big speeches I give in the next one in Portland next week with a bunch of the VA and DOD providers about suicide prevention. I went out to talk to people with intense personal interaction with suicide. And one thing keeps coming back, which is, you know, isolation is an issue. And this is one thing that you guys are doing is the gamers, this community is building community in places where none existed before. So we want to be in those spaces with you. That's why VA Donnie is so important. That's why I'm here with you today, so we can find out how we can get more of our people in your communities. And that's why we want to keep gathering with you. That's why we're going to continue our gaming tournaments, for example, as places where, you know, we can build on the community that you've built, and we can, you know, input VA deliverables, VA information, VA connection into that community. And then the last thing is the reason I came here too is not to just talk at you, but to hear from you and learn from you. That's why we want you to plug in with us, right? Because we want to know from you what works. You know, what do you think we should be doing to be there present with you, right? Because we work for you, right? We want to be with you. So thanks for the question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Josh.
I'd like to invite the Warrior Gamer team up here for a quick picture. Everybody from the Warrior Gamer team. And then, Mr. Secretary, we got a custom shirt for you. So safe is basically safe space.
Yeah.
So Warrior Gamer safe. And then it's just a memorandum of our
Awesome.
summit.
Awesome. I'll wear this on my ride home tonight. On my run home tonight.